Welcome back to Mr. Ashbourne Golden Narratives, where love finds a way even in the most impossible circumstances. To all my incredible subscribers, thank you for being part of this journey of the heart. If you're new here, go ahead and click that subscribe button to join our growing family of story lovers. We'd love to have you. Tonight I'm sharing a story that will make you believe in unexpected love and the power of one moment to change everything forever. It all started on what should have been the happiest day of Jade Lawrence's life. St. Andrew's Cathedral stood majestic against the Houston skyline, its Gothic spires reaching toward heaven like prayers made of stone. Inside, 300 guests shifted restlessly in their seats, designer gowns rustling against mahogany pews. The scent of white lilies filled the air, mingling with expensive perfumes and the growing tension that seemed to thicken with each passing minute. Jade Lawrence stood in the bride's chamber, her reflection staring back from an ornate mirror. The woman looking back was flawless, ivory silk cascading down her curves like liquid moonlight, her dark curls pinned perfectly beneath a cathedral veil that had belonged to her grandmother. Diamond earrings caught the light as she turned her head, checking every detail one final time. "You look absolutely radiant, sweetheart," her mother said, adjusting the veil with trembling fingers. But there was something in her voice, a forced brightness that made Jade's stomach flutter. "Has anyone seen Anthony?" Jade asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "We should have started 20 minutes ago." Her best friend, Maya, glanced at her phone again. "I'm sure he's just, you know how men are with timing." But they all knew Anthony Martinez wasn't that kind of man. He was methodical, punctual, obsessively organized. He'd planned their entire courtship like a business merger, which in many ways it had been. The union of two Houston legacy families, their real estate empires joining forces. Outside the chamber, Jade could hear the murmur of confused guests growing louder. The violinist had played Canon in D 3 times now, her bow trembling slightly as she launched into a fourth rendition. "I'll go check on him," Maya said, but before she could move, Jade's phone buzzed on the vanity table. The sound seemed to echo in the sudden silence. Jade's hands shook as she picked up the device, seeing Anthony's name on the screen. "It's him," she whispered. The message was brief, brutal, final. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. You deserve someone better." The words hit Jade like a physical blow. She read them once, twice, 3 times as if repetition might change their meaning. Her mother gasped, reading over her shoulder. He didn't?" Her mother stammered. "Oh my God," Maya breathed. "He actually didn't show up." The silence that followed was deafening. Then, as if someone had opened floodgates, the whispers began. Jade could hear them seeping through the walls, the shocked gasps, the hurried conversations, the scraping of chairs as guests turned to share the gossip. "What do we do?" her mother asked, her voice breaking. The guests, the reception, the photographers. As if summoned by her words, a camera flash exploded through the stained glass windows. Then another. And another. The press had arrived, drawn by the scent of scandal like wolves to wounded prey. "Miss Lawrence," a voice called from outside. "Can you comment on the groom's absence? Is it true Anthony Martinez left you at the altar? How do you feel about being Houston's most famous jilted bride?" Jade stood frozen, the phone still clutched in her hands. 5 years. 5 years of planning, of building a life together, of believing in a future that had just crumbled with a single text message. "Jade, honey, we need to make a statement," her father said, bursting into the room. His face was flushed, sweat beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. "The media is calling this the story of the year. We need damage control." But Jade wasn't listening anymore. She was remembering Anthony's words from their engagement party. "Jade, you're perfect for me. You understand the business, you know the expectations. We're going to build something incredible together. Not, I love you. Not, I can't live without you. Just, business." She walked to the window, pulling back the curtain slightly. Below, news vans lined the street, reporters adjusting their microphones, cameramen checking their equipment. A crowd had gathered, phones raised, ready to capture her humiliation for social media. "The Lawrence family has issued no official statement," she heard a reporter saying to her camera. "But sources close to the family suggest this abandonment has blindsided everyone, including the bride herself." Jade let the curtain fall. She looked at her reflection one more time, the perfect bride, the perfect dress, the perfect disaster. "I'm leaving," she said quietly. "Jade, no," her mother pleaded. "We can fix this. We can spin this. Anthony will come to his senses." "He already has," Jade interrupted. "And so have I." She walked past her family, past the wedding party, past the ushers trying to manage the confused guests. She pushed through the cathedral doors, stepping into the bright Houston sun. The camera flashes were blinding. Questions bombarded her from every direction. But Jade didn't stop. She didn't speak. She simply walked down the stone steps, kicked off her designer heels, hiked up her silk dress, and kept walking. 2 blocks away from the cathedral, from the chaos, from the life she'd thought she wanted, a red Ford truck slowed beside her. The window rolled down with a mechanical whir, and Jade found herself staring at a man who looked like he'd stepped out of a different world entirely. Weathered hands gripped the steering wheel, calloused fingers speaking of honest work. His beard was trimmed but rugged, and his eyes, deep brown like rich coffee, held a mixture of concern and curiosity. "You all right?" he asked, his voice carrying the weight of gravel roads and honest conversations. Jade almost laughed. "Almost." "No," she said without looking directly at him. "I need a ride. Anywhere but here." He took in her appearance, the ivory silk now dusty at the hem, her makeup smudged but still beautiful, her bare feet on the hot pavement. His gaze wasn't judgmental, just observant. "I'm not a cab," he said simply. Something in his tone, the complete absence of pity or curiosity about her obvious distress, made Jade turn to face him fully. "I'm not in the mood for negotiations," she replied, her voice carrying an edge that surprised even her. "Drive or move." For a moment they stared at each other through the open window. Then something shifted in his expression, surprise, maybe even respect. He let out a short laugh, dry and unexpected. "Get in." The truck's interior smelled like coffee and leather, with hints of sawdust and something distinctly masculine. As Jade settled into the passenger seat, she noticed the work gloves on the dashboard, the tool belt hanging behind the seat, the small cross dangling from the rearview mirror. "I'm Luca," he said, pulling away from the curb. "Luca Grayson." "Jade." She didn't offer her last name. After today, she wasn't sure she wanted to claim it anymore. They drove in comfortable silence for several minutes, the city slowly giving way to suburban sprawl. Jade watched the world pass by through the window, each mile taking her further from the disaster her life had become. "Running away from your wedding or running to it?" Jade turned to study his profile. "What makes you think it's a wedding?" "White dress. Fancy makeup. The look of someone who just had their world turned upside down." He glanced at her briefly. "Plus, you're holding an engagement ring." Jade looked down at her hands, surprised to find she was indeed clutching the 3-carat diamond Anthony had given her 2 years ago. She'd forgotten she was even wearing it. "Running from," she said quietly. "Definitely running from." "Smart woman. You don't even know what happened." "Don't need to," Luca replied, his eyes focused on the road. "If you're running, it means you still have fight left in you. That's what matters." They passed a billboard advertising luxury condos, Anthony's company's latest project. Jade's face was plastered across it in a glamorous photo from their engagement party, smiling beside text that read, "Lawrence and Anthony, a union of 2 legacies." She slumped lower in her seat, pulling the veil from her hair and letting it fall to the floor. "You got somewhere to go?" Luca asked, having clearly seen the billboard. "No. And don't offer to take me home. I'd rather sleep in a ditch than face my family right now." "Classy," he said, but there was amusement in his voice, not judgment. Jade found herself almost smiling. "Do you always pick up random women in wedding gowns, or am I special?" "Just the loud ones walking barefoot in traffic," he shot back. Seemed like the responsible thing to do. "So you're responsible?" "When I have to be." An hour later, they pulled into the parking lot of a roadside motel that had seen better decades. The neon sign flickered intermittently, casting pink and blue shadows across the cracked asphalt. "You sure this is safe?" Jade asked, eyeing the building skeptically. "You're not exactly royalty right now," Luca replied, turning off the engine. "Sometimes laying low is the best option." At the front desk, a clerk with tired eyes and a knowing smile processed their request for 2 rooms without question. Jade appreciated that, no curious stares, no whispered conversations about the woman in the wedding dress. "Room 12, the clerk said, handing Jade a key. "Ice machines at the end of the hall. Vending machines too if you need anything." "Thank you," Jade said, meaning it more than she'd meant anything in hours. As they walked to their adjacent rooms, Luca paused at his door. "You need anything tonight, food, phone charger, someone to talk to, just knock." "Why are you being so kind to me?" Jade asked. "You don't even know me." Luca considered this for a moment, key in hand. "Maybe because you didn't ask me to be. You just asked for a ride." That night, Jade sat on the edge of the motel bed, still in her wedding dress, staring at her phone. 17 missed calls from her mother. 23 from Maya. 6 from her father. And hundreds of notifications from social media, her humiliation now trending nationwide. She was about to turn the phone off when she heard a soft knock at her door. When she opened it, there was no one there, just a bottle of water and a wrapped sandwich sitting on the doormat. Such a simple gesture. But it was the first truly kind thing anyone had done for her in 24 hours. No agenda, no expectations, no cameras capturing the moment for public consumption. For the first time since reading Anthony's text, Jade smiled. Really smiled. Maybe this disaster was exactly what she needed. The next morning, Jade woke to sunlight streaming through thin motel curtains. She'd slept better than she had in weeks, despite everything. Or maybe because of everything. She'd changed out of her wedding dress and into jeans and a t-shirt she'd bought from the motel's gift shop, clothes that felt more like herself than anything in her closet back home. She found Luca sitting on the hood of his truck, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. "You always up this early?" she asked, settling beside him. "Habit," he said, offering her a second cup of coffee. "Construction starts at dawn." "Construction? I run a development company. Nothing fancy, but it pays the bills." He paused. "Speaking of which, I've got court in 2 hours. Houston courthouse." Jade studied his profile, noting the tension in his jaw. "Court." Luca was quiet for a long moment, then said, "Trying to get custody of my sister. Our mom passed 6 months ago. Cancer." The simple words carried so much weight. Jade felt her heart clench with unexpected emotion. "I'm sorry. How old is she?" "Rosie just turned 8. She's been in foster care while I get my life together enough to convince a judge I'm stable." He laughed bitterly. Apparently, being a single guy who works construction doesn't scream, ideal guardian, to the family court system. "But you love her. More than anything. She's all I have left." His voice softened. "Mom made me promise to take care of her. I'm not breaking that promise." Jade watched him speak about his sister, seeing the fierce protectiveness in his eyes, the way his entire demeanor changed when he mentioned her. This was a man who understood real responsibility, real love. "Can I come with you?" she asked suddenly. Luca turned to look at her. "Why would you want to do that?" "I've got nothing better to do. And honestly, I'd rather spend the day helping someone fight for family than hiding from my own." 2 hours later, they sat in the sterile hallway of the Houston Family Court building. Jade had helped Luca organize his paperwork, review his statements, and even coached him on how to present himself to the judge. "Remember," she said, straightening his tie, "you're not just asking for custody. You're promising to give Rosie a future." "Yes, ma'am," he said, but his smile was grateful. They watched as other cases were called custody disputes, adoption proceedings, families being torn apart and put back together by legal decree. When Luca's name was finally called, Jade squeezed his hand. "You've got this." An hour later, Luca emerged from the courtroom looking defeated. Jade stood immediately, reading his expression. "How did it go?" "Could have been better," he said, loosening his tie. "The judge wants to see more stability. More conventional family structure." "What does that mean?" "It means they think a single, 32-year-old construction worker isn't ideal guardian material. They want to see me settled down, married, with a stable home environment." They walked to his truck in silence, both lost in thought. Finally, Luca stopped and turned to face her. "This is going to sound crazy," he said. "After yesterday, I'm pretty sure nothing will sound crazy to me. You know what would help my case? If I looked married, stable, settled." Jade tilted her head, studying his face. "Are you proposing?" He actually laughed at that. "You want to?" The question hung in the air between them. Jade stared at him, this man who had picked her up when she was broken, who had shown her kindness without expecting anything in return, who was fighting for the only family he had left. "You helped me when you didn't have to," she said slowly. "If this helps you get your sister back, then why not?" "You're serious?" "As a woman who just got dumped by Houston's most boring real estate heir, yeah. Let's shake things up." Luca blinked, clearly not expecting her to agree. "Marriage is a legal contract," she finished. "I know. I just had one fall apart spectacularly. But this is different. This is about helping someone who deserves it." "And what do you get out of it?" Jade considered this. "A chance to be part of something real. Something that matters. And maybe a chance to prove that I'm worth more than being someone's convenient trophy wife." They stood there in the courthouse parking lot, Two people who had known each other for less than 24 hours, contemplating a decision that would change everything. So, Lucas said finally, want to get married? Right now. No time like the present. The courthouse is right here. Jade looked at the building behind them, then at the man beside her. Yesterday she'd been abandoned at the altar. Today she was about to walk into that same courthouse and marry a stranger. Let's do it, she said. 2 hours later they emerged as husband and wife. No flowers, no music, no 300 guests. Just signatures on official documents and a slightly bewildered court clerk who had processed their marriage license. So, Jade said, looking at the marriage certificate in her hands, how does it feel to be married to Houston's most notorious runaway bride? Like the best decision I've made in a long time, Luca replied. And for the first time in months, Jade felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Jade's first glimpse of Luca's house came as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the modest suburban street. It was nothing like the sprawling estate she'd shared with Anthony, no marble columns, no imported Italian tiles, no infinity pool overlooking the city. Instead, it was a simple 2-story home with a wraparound porch, weathered wooden steps, and a garden that clearly needed attention. It's not much, Lucas said, suddenly self-conscious as he parked in the driveway. It's perfect, Jade replied and meant it. The house felt warm, lived in, real in a way her previous life had never been. The interior was exactly what she'd expected, furniture that was functional rather than fashionable, family photos scattered on mismatched tables, and the lingering scent of coffee and something that might have been homemade cookies from weeks past. The guest room is upstairs, Lucas said, carrying her single suitcase hastily packed that morning from her things at her parents' house. First door on the right. I'm at the end of the hall. Thank you, Jade said, then hesitated. Luca? When do I get to meet her? His face softened immediately. Rosie has a supervised visit tomorrow afternoon. The social worker wants to meet you first. Make sure you're legitimate. And are we? Legitimate? Lucas stopped at the bottom of the stairs, looking up at her. I don't know what we are, Jade. But whatever it is, it's real enough. The next day, Jade found herself more nervous than she'd been at her own wedding. She'd changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on a simple blue dress that made her look approachable rather than intimidating. She's shy at first, Luca warned as they drove to the social services office. Mom's death hit her hard, and the foster family, they're good people but they're not family. What should I know about her? She loves books, especially fairy tales. She's too smart for her own good sometimes. And she has this way of looking at you like she can see right through to your soul. When they arrived at the sterile government building, Jade watched through a window as Luca knelt to hug a small girl with dark hair and serious eyes. Rosie Grayson was beautiful in the way only children can be, all untamed curls and expressive face, wearing a purple dress that was slightly too big for her small frame. Rosie, Luca said gently, I want you to meet someone very special. This is Jade. The little girl studied Jade with the intense focus of someone much older. Are you my brother's wife? I am, Jade replied, crouching down to Rosie's level. And I've heard so many wonderful things about you. Are you going to leave? Rosie asked with devastating directness. The question hit Jade like a physical blow. This child had already lost her mother, been separated from her brother, and placed with strangers. Of course she would expect abandonment. No, sweetheart, Jade said softly. I'm not going anywhere. Promise. Jade looked into those serious brown eyes, so much like Luca's, and felt something shift inside her chest. I promise. The social worker, a kind-faced woman named Mrs. Chin, observed their interaction with professional interest. Later she pulled Jade aside. She doesn't warm up to people easily, Mrs. Chin said. But she seems to trust you. That's significant. She's been through so much, Jade replied. She deserves stability. And can you provide that? This marriage is very sudden. Jade thought about her answer carefully. Mrs. Chin, I've spent most of my life in relationships that looked perfect on paper but were empty inside. What Luca and I have might be unconventional, but it's built on something real: respect, kindness, and a shared commitment to giving Rosie the family she deserves. The following weeks fell into a rhythm that surprised Jade with its naturalness. She threw herself into helping Luca prepare for the custody hearing, organizing his financial documents, writing character references, and even researching family law to better understand their case. You don't have to do all this, Luca said one evening, finding her at the kitchen table surrounded by legal papers and sticky notes. I want to, she replied, looking up from a particularly complex custody statute. Besides, I'm good at this kind of thing. It's like solving a puzzle. Is that what we are? A puzzle? Jade considered this. Maybe. Or maybe we're just two people figuring out how to be a family. They had dinner together every night, simple meals that Luca cooked with surprising skill. Jade learned that he made excellent pasta, that he sang off-key while doing dishes, and that he had a habit of checking the locks twice before bed. Nervous habit, he explained when she caught him rattling the front door handle. Started after Mom got sick. Guess I just want to make sure everything's secure. It is, Jade said. We're secure. The supervised visits with Rosie became the highlight of Jade's week. She read to the little girl, helped her with homework, and listened to stories about school and friends and the new foster family. Do you think Luca will really get to keep me? Rosie asked one afternoon as they sat in the park, watching ducks paddle across a small pond. I think your brother would move mountains to keep you safe, Jade replied. And I think any judge who meets him will see how much he loves you. Do you love him? The question caught Jade off guard. Did she love Luca? The man who had given her shelter when she needed it most, who trusted her with his biggest dream, who made her coffee every morning without being asked. I think I'm learning to, she said honestly. Good, Rosie said matter-of-factly. He needs someone to take care of him too. That night, Jade lay in bed thinking about the little girl's words. When had she stopped thinking about this arrangement as temporary? When had Luca's happiness become as important to her as her own? She was still pondering this when she heard footsteps in the hallway. A moment later there was a soft knock on her door. To find Luca standing there in pajama pants and a t-shirt, hair messed from sleep. What's wrong? She asked. Nothing's wrong. I wanted to thank you. For everything you're doing. For Rosie, for the legal stuff, for... He paused, searching for words. For being here. They stood there in the doorway, the space between them charged with something neither was quite ready to name. Luca. Yeah. We're going to win this custody case. You're going to get your sister back. How can you be so sure? Because some things are just meant to be. He smiled then, really smiled, and Jade felt her heart skip in a way that had nothing to do with convenience and everything to do with the man standing in front of her. Good night, Jade. Good night, husband. After he left, Jade realized she hadn't called him that mockingly. She called him that because somewhere along the way, it had started to feel true. 3 weeks later, they sat in the same courthouse where they'd gotten married, but this time the stakes felt infinitely higher. Jade wore a navy dress that projected stability and respectability, while Luca sat beside her in his best suit, hands clasped tightly in his lap. Mr. Grayson, Judge Martinez said, reviewing the files before her, I've reviewed your case extensively. Your financial records show steady income, your home inspection passed with flying colors, and the character references speak highly of your integrity. Jade reached over and squeezed Luca's hand. She could feel the tension radiating from him. However, the judge continued, my primary concern has always been about providing young Rosie with a stable family environment. Your Honor, Luca began, but Judge Martinez held up a hand. Let me finish, Mr. Grayson. Meeting your wife has changed my perspective considerably. Mrs. Grayson clearly cares deeply for your sister, and Rosie has expressed strong feelings about wanting to live with both of you. Jade felt her heart hammering against her ribs. Therefore, I'm granting you full custody of Rosie Grayson, effective immediately. The courthouse erupted in quiet celebration. Luca's lawyer shook his hand vigorously, and Jade found herself being hugged by Mrs. Chin, who had testified on their behalf. But all Jade could focus on was the way Luca looked at her across the courtroom, like she had just handed him the moon and stars. We did it, he said when he finally reached her. You did it, she corrected. I just helped with the paperwork. Jade. His voice was serious now. I couldn't have done this without you. You gave me a family when I needed one most. They drove home in comfortable silence, both processing what this victory meant. Rosie would be coming home tomorrow, home to them, home to stay. That evening, while Luca went to pick up celebratory takeout, Jade decided to organize some of the legal documents they'd accumulated during the custody battle. She was filing papers in Luca's home office when she came across a folder marked Silverline Development Corporation. Curious, she opened it and found herself staring at letterhead that made her blood run cold. The same elegant script, the same corporate logo she'd seen countless times during her relationship with Anthony. Her hands shook as she read through the documents. Purchase agreements, acquisition contracts, financial statements. All bearing Luca's signature as CEO and majority owner. No, she whispered, sinking into his desk chair. This can't be right. But it was right. The dates matched perfectly. While she'd been planning her wedding to Anthony, Luca had been systematically acquiring the smaller companies that supplied Anthony's development projects. And when Anthony's business started failing, partly due to losing those crucial contracts, Silverline Development had swooped in to buy his assets for pennies on the dollar. The front door opened and closed downstairs. "Jade, I got that Thai food you like." She heard his footsteps on the stairs getting closer. Her mind raced, trying to process this information. Had he known who she was when he picked her up? Had this all been some elaborate scheme? "Hey, you okay up here?" Luca appeared in the doorway, takeout bags in hand. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "You own Silverline Development," she said quietly. His face went very still. "Yes." "The same company that bought Anthony's business." "Yes." "The same company that essentially destroyed his real estate empire." Luca set down the food and moved into the room slowly, like he was approaching a wounded animal. "Jade, I didn't know who you were when I picked you up. I swear to you, I had no idea you were connected to Martinez. But you know now. I figured it out about a week ago. I wanted to tell you, but..." He ran his hands through his hair. "I didn't know how." Jade stared at the documents in her hands. "So while I was getting dumped at the altar, you were the one responsible for ruining my ex-fiancé's business?" His business was already failing. Bad investments, poor management, cutting corners on construction. "I just acquired the pieces when it fell apart. And you didn't think I had a right to know this? What would you have done if I'd told you?" Luca asked. "Would you have stayed? Would you have helped me get Rosie back?" The question hung in the air between them. Jade looked at this man she'd come to care for, this man who had just been granted custody of his beloved sister, this man who had apparently been instrumental in destroying her previous life. "I don't know," she admitted. "Jade, everything I've done, every business decision I've made, it's all been about building something stable for Rosie. I never meant to hurt you. But you did hurt me. You hurt Anthony. You hurt a lot of people. Anthony Martinez hurt you more than I ever did," Luca said quietly. "He left you standing at an altar in front of 300 people. He made you a public spectacle. I gave you shelter when you needed it most." Jade stood up, the papers still clutched in her hands. "I need some air. Jade, please. Don't let this change what we have." She paused at the doorway. "What do we have, Luca? Because right now, I'm not sure I know anymore." The hurt in his eyes almost made her stay. Almost. But instead, she walked out into the night, leaving him alone with the takeout and the weight of his secrets. Jade found herself sitting on the porch steps, the cool night air wrapping around her like a gentle embrace. The street was quiet, porch lights casting pools of yellow warmth in the darkness. She'd been out here for an hour, maybe two, trying to untangle the mess of emotions swirling in her chest. The front door opened behind her, and she heard the soft creak of floorboards as Luca settled beside her, careful to leave space between them. "I saved you some pad thai," he said quietly, setting a container beside her. "I'm not hungry." "I know. But you should eat anyway." They sat in silence for a while, the distant sound of traffic and crickets filling the space between them. Finally Jade spoke. "Tell me the truth, Luca. All of it." He was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. Then he sighed deeply. "I started acquiring those supply contracts 2 years ago. Martinez Development was hemorrhaging money, making bad deals, treating their subcontractors like garbage. When companies started looking for new partners, I made better offers him specifically. And Anthony? But when his business started failing..." Luca paused. "I won't lie to you, Jade. I bought his assets when they came up for sale. It was a good business decision." "That's it? Just business?" "That's how it started. But when I saw what kind of man he was, how he treated people, how he left you standing at that altar, I can't say I felt sorry for him." Jade absorbed this, turning it over in her mind. "So you really didn't know who I was when you picked me up?" "I swear to you I didn't. You were just a woman in a wedding dress who needed help. It wasn't until later, when I saw your last name on the marriage certificate, that I put it together." "And you didn't think to tell me?" Luca turned to face her fully. "I was terrified you'd leave. That you'd think I'd manipulated you somehow. And maybe I was afraid you'd go back to him." "Back to Anthony?" Jade almost laughed. "Luca, that man humiliated me in front of the entire city. He chose his reputation over my heart. Why would I ever go back to someone like that? Because it was familiar? Because it was safe? Because it was the life you'd planned?" Jade studied his face in the porch light, the worry lines around his eyes, the way his jaw tensed when he was trying not to say too much. "Do you want to know what I realized sitting out here?" she asked. "What?" Anthony didn't just break my heart that day. He set me free. Free from a life that was never really mine, from a man who saw me as an accessory to his success rather than a partner in his life. Jade. I'm not finished, she said, but her voice was gentler now. What you did to his business. Maybe it was just business to you. But to me, it feels like justice. He spent years thinking he was untouchable, that he could treat people however he wanted because of his name, his money, his connections. And then you came along and proved him wrong. So you're not angry? Oh, I'm angry, she said, but there was a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. I'm angry that you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth. I'm angry that you let me find out by accident. And I'm angry that you thought I was so shallow that I'd care more about Anthony's business than about what we've built together. Are you? Luca asked quietly. Am I what? Shallow enough to throw away what we have for a man who didn't deserve you in the first place? Jade reached over and took his hand, intertwining their fingers. Luca Grayson, I married you in a courthouse wearing jeans and a t-shirt. I helped you fight for custody of your sister. I learned to make coffee the way you like it, and I read bedtime stories to Rosie over video calls. Do you really think I'm going to walk away from all of that because you happen to make some smart business decisions? So you're staying? I'm staying. But next time you have a secret that involves my ex-fiancé, my family, or my past, you tell me. Deal? Deal. They sat in comfortable silence again, but this time it felt different. Resolved. Peaceful. Jade. Yeah. I love you. The words hung in the night air between them, simple and honest and terrifying. I love you too, she whispered back. Even though I'm the man who destroyed your ex's business empire? Especially because you're the man who destroyed my ex's business empire. He laughed, then really laughed, and pulled her closer on the porch steps. So what happens now? He asked. Now we go inside, we eat that pad thai, and we get ready for Rosie to come home tomorrow. We build the life we both deserve. And if the press finds out about the business connection? Let them. I'm done hiding from my story, Luca. I was dumped at the altar, I married a stranger, and I fell in love with the man who gave me a second chance at happiness. That's not a scandal, that's a miracle. The next morning they drove to pick up Rosie together. As they pulled into the driveway of their home, their real home, Jade looked at her husband and his sister and felt something she'd never experienced before, complete and utter contentment. She'd been abandoned at the altar by a man who was supposed to love her. But that abandonment had led her to a love deeper and more real than anything she'd ever imagined. Sometimes the best things in life begin with the worst moments. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments about a time when something that seemed like a disaster actually led you to something beautiful. Don't forget to subscribe to Mr. Ashbourne Golden Narratives for more stories about love, resilience, and the power of second chances. Until next time, remember, sometimes the greatest love stories start not with a fairy tale, but with a simple act of kindness from a stranger who becomes your everything.